People that are over-indexed on dark-triad traits, they tend to be less introspective than your average. What women want deeply is assertive, directive behavior. Women advising other women against relationships and motherhood might be this unconscious competitive strategy to keep women away from the mates. Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Ancient Intelligence. You've got your host, Anya Shack here, and today I want to get into a slightly spicy conversation, but one that I think we need to have, and it's all about what you would refer to as mean girl syndrome or elite women and the role that elite women have potentially played in the last 200 years of, us getting to the places that we are now in our society and dealing with some of our cultural and societal issues. So really excited to dive into that. But before I do, I just want to remind y'all, I have a few spots left for one-on-one coaching. So if you want to be supported in this next season of your life, if you're looking to make some big changes, I'm your girl. Book a free discovery call below at the link, and I will be looking forward to supporting you and meeting you. Okay, let's dive in. So this is a question that I have been running in my mind over the last week or two. An article came out on a Vogue article. It was like, is it embarrassing to have a boyfriend now? There are these conversations that have been happening on Modern Wisdom and also an interview with Chris Williamson on Tucker Carlson where they talked about men and women and men's issues. And I kept thinking to myself, man, everyone's so caught up, right? Oh, women this and men that. And maybe there's an opportunity to double click on actually a tiny little 1% of super elite women that have potentially been causing a lot of problems since the beginning, since the early 1800s, since suffrage, because it was hyper elite women who I believe had some psychopathic tendencies, and I will get into why here, that really just influence our culture and our society in such ways that I don't even think have grips with. We haven't even really begun to understand it. I think people are understanding it now. And so I think it's an important thing to talk about. Male sexual shame, anxiety and depression for both sexes, right? Female entitlement, male passivity, the job insecurity that exists, the chaos that has been existing in the workplace for decades, right? Gender wars in general, like mating confusion and the chaos and all of the things that have come up in recent years, people saying, oh, well, maybe polyamory will fix all of my mating problems, and just the chaos of all of that, right? Birth rates dropping way below replacement, just the term toxic masculinity in general and everything that goes along with it. So it's just this big question, hey, like, are a tiny group of elite women kind of just behaving like mean girls? And most importantly, why would they be doing this? Okay. And so Rob Henderson put forth this great, brilliant case study. And he wrote this essay called Girl Boss Gatekeeping, where he's arguing that effectively all of the behavior we see, all of the effects of like dating and mating issues, the hard time that men and women are having, possibly could be a result of elite influential women participating in what's called reproductive suppression. Okay. And so thinking back to, and he cites a bunch of research from Dr. Dani Sulikowski, just to note that. That's really important. I'm going to link his article down below so you guys can take a look. I think you have to be paid subscribed for his Substack to read it. But basically, like this idea of reproductive suppression. And to understand that, we have to understand the evolutionary psychology terminology that can kind of explain a proximate versus an ultimate goal, right? So if you think about food, a proximate reason that you need food is, oh, I'm hungry. That's proximate, right? But the ultimate reason you need food is for the calories so that you survive, right? Same thing for mating. Oh, I'm sexually attracted to this person. I want to engage in sex, but the ultimate reason is because you want to continue the species, right? You want your genes to move forward once you're gone. And so just having an understanding of that, what Rob is basically saying is the proximate reason that women behave the way that they do in our culture, specifically like elite women, is because it seems like they are caring and devoting themselves to the plight of young women, and they like have all this solidarity with women, and they want to see women happy and independent and loving themselves. But the ultimate reason that they have been behaving the way that they have been behaving is to ultimately suppress them from getting mates, to stop them from being able to reproduce. Okay. To like make sure that the mating actually doesn't happen. And I just think that's really interesting. Okay. And so I think that's so true. And so I think one of the reasons is reproductive suppression. And I'm going to get into that a little bit more deeply. And then I also think the second reason is just male envy in general that needs to be explained a little bit further. I think that's probably one of the things that Rob is missing, and that's where the psychopathic conversation kind of comes in. And so we'll get into that in a little bit. And the other thing to know, just as we get into this conversation of like, okay, what are these elite women doing and why are they doing it? Like, that's what we're doing here. And the other thing to understand is like, this is all revolving around the evolutionary psychology terminology around intergroup conflict. And so when it comes to intergroup conflict, this is what people need to do in order to secure a mate, right? They have to participate in intergroup conflict. They have to compete with each other. The way that men compete with each other is overt physical aggression. Just overt physical aggression. I'm tougher than you. I'm stronger than you. Let me fight you. That's because I'm stronger. You should pick me, right? Whereas women, they participate in covert passive aggression. So on the surface, I'm going to make you like me, woman to woman. I'm going to make you like me. I'm going to support you. I'm going to make it seem like we are, in this together. But my motives actually deep down are to make sure that you don't steal my mate or you don't take a mate that I want, right? Like I beat you when it comes to securing the mate and reproducing successfully. That's the difference. And so Rob is basically saying that women advising other women against relationships and motherhood might be this unconscious competitive strategy to keep women away from the mates, right? And how do they do this? By raising women's cortisol levels, effectively inducing stress. And so this is not new. This is something that chimps do. This is something that other primates have done since the beginning of time. And so this is why articles like why having a boyfriend is so cringe now, right? It seems like it's in solidarity with the single girl, gal pal, let's be friends. Friendship matters more than men. But really, it's saying like, you don't need a boyfriend. You don't need a man. You don't need to get married so that there are more left for me, right? That's the manipulation. And so Rob started talking about chimps and primates in his article, right? High status chimp females will physically push the subordinate females around. How do they do this? They'll take their resources, they'll bully them, they'll exclude them socially, they'll isolate them. All of this creates so much high stress and high cortisol. It disrupts the reproductive system. We know that high cortisol disrupts the reproductive system. We have slews of women suffering from high cortisol over the last few decades. Like, I'd argue one of the undeniable parts of the last 50 years of Western life is women's stress levels having risen, right? 80% of autoimmune disease is found in women. Women are 2 to 3 times more likely to take SSRIs than men. There's so much, right? It delays ovulation, disrupts the menstrual cycle, it reduces fertility. It's just like all the things. And so what's interesting, though, is this has all been happening in this extremely covert way, packaged in love and care and solidarity, right? And so there's 2 ways that women have been doing this. And this is some of the arguments that Rob is making in his piece, and also some of the things that I'm adding in a couple of like anecdotes and things that I've seen as well that I think is interesting. So one of the ways that women have done this, elite women, small, tiny group percentage of elite women have done exactly what chimps do to women, like I just said, basically saying like, you need to become a girl boss. Otherwise, you're just not as cool as us. Like, you need to delay having a family as long as it takes for you to succeed because you are so smart and brilliant and powerful and amazing. You're a star, right? All of that. Oh, you body positivity. Eat whatever, work out whenever, do whatever. It doesn't matter. You're beautiful exactly as you are. And any man that can't appreciate you, well, he can't see your beauty, right? Friendship is so much more important than partnership. It's just like friendship matters more. Invest in your friends, invest in your friendships. Men are trash anyway, right? All of that. Female entitlement. That is something that has been huge. And that goes kind of hand in hand with like red flag culture. This idea of just like, oh, he did that one thing. Oh, he's not good enough for you. You're amazing. It's just insane. Like putting these crazy standards on men that don't actually even make sense. And it's just so interesting because it all sounds really supportive and loving and like girl power. It's so interesting. And so this is a thing that Rob was saying as well in his article. In the past, elite women had a reproductive advantage, more resources, better nutrition. Like kids wouldn't survive hundreds and hundreds of years ago. If you had 6 kids, maybe 3 would live past the age of 15. Not anymore. All kids survive. All kids survive. So it's less advantageous for super, super elite women to build up the narrative that marriage matters more than anything. Devotion matters, believe in men, support men, like you need a man, all of that stuff. Like that's just not advantageous for this reproductive suppression strategy. And so because they don't have that edge anymore, like they had maybe 300 years ago, is what they were saying, women need to create more barriers to entry for reproduction, right? Even if they're fake. Oh, well, to be a great mom, you need to make sure each of your kids has their iPad so that they have like all of these programs on the iPad and they have that. You need to make sure they get into that prestigious preschool. Oh, you can't get into that school. You missed the deadline. Oh, oh, wow, you clearly don't care enough about your kids, right? Ballet lessons, SAT prep. Oh, you're not doing SAT prep? What if they fall behind? There are all of these requirements now. Men don't do this. Women are the ones that create these social and cultural requirements and then promote them. And the thing is this doesn't happen in a vacuum too, right? It's not like, oh, elite women are just like conniving and doing all of this. I think they are really bought into all of this too because of the technology of our world, right? Because of social media, because they see these highlight reels on TikTok and it's like, oh, she has the most perfect living room and she has these perfect kids and she has all that. Oh, if I don't have all of that, then I'm not good enough to have kids, or I'm not good enough to have this. My life isn't worthy unless I have all of these things. And I'm not like worthy to be a mom unless I have all of these things. And it's just this big, big ass lie, right? I need more. I need to buy more. I need to consume more to the point where, okay, well, now I don't even have any money. If I even did meet my person and we did want to have kids, now we're caught up in the spiral of consumerism. So I think like this phenomena of reproductive suppression would not be as exponentially increasing as it is without technology and industrialization and modernity and consumerism and all of that. So it's like, it's all this big tornado that's kind of like it's becoming bigger and bigger and bigger, and it's spiraling everything in, right? I think that's really important. So that's number one, just like lying to women straight up about what they should prioritize, what matters to them. It's heartbreaking, right? Because there are women that have bought into this. And then there are these Facebook chats and groups of women like 45, 48 years old that it's too late for them to have kids. And they're devastated and they're heartbroken. And the notion here is like, oh, okay, well, there weren't any good men, or I didn't find my person, or I prioritized my career. I didn't put effort into it. I said no to a lot of men for probably dumb, stupid reasons that don't make any sense. And where did all of this mind BS come from? Well, it came from elite, influential women talking about these things and talking about culture. And so this is all, like I watched this episode of Modern Wisdom with Chris Williamson and Rob Henderson, and they're talking about these two women on a podcast, you know, talking about, is having a boyfriend lame now? Meanwhile, they have boyfriends, right? Someone brought up like the Chloe Green. I think she's the heiress of Topshop, the UK clothing kind of conglomerate, whatever. And she was having fun and she was dating a supermodel, this young man who was just so beautiful and just attractive and tall, like a supermodel. Ended up having a child with him. And then, it didn't work out. And what did she have to fall back on? Well, she's an heiress. She's this elite woman. She ended up marrying another Italian millionaire, billionaire that she obviously knew through her network of elites, right? So like all of the ways that she can behave might be okay for her because she has hundreds of layers of protection to make sure that she has the aspirational lifestyle and all the other stuff, and the family, and the kids, and all of it. And she has the means to have it all. And this conversation, though, and this like posturing makes women that can't have it all feel like they can, and then they are horribly disappointed when they don't, when it ends up not working out. And so it's just, there's so much lying happening. Second thing, disrupting other women's mating preferences. So this is effectively, Rob was calling out reproductive sabotage, as he was saying. So this idea that these elite women have pushed, you want this golden retriever type husband, you want this man who will say yes to you, who won't stand strong on his own needs, he'll never say no to you, he'll just treat you like a princess, right? Actually, this raises cortisol in women when they're with a man that defers to them. What women want deeply is assertive, confident, directive behavior. We know this because 50 Shades of Grey, the biggest selling women's erotic novel on the planet in the history of the modern world. I was listening to something and they were talking about how they tried to make the, golden retriever type, yes man erotic novels, and they didn't sell, obviously, because women aren't interested in that at a primal level. Elite women have demonized traditional masculine traits, the qualities that up until just a few years ago would have made a man attractive, right? Now they're presented as these silly red flags: confidence, aggression, power, all of that. Think about rom-coms in general. And the types of I've talked to so many guys. I think men hate these movies. And I know why. Every time I watch one of these movies, I'm always like, oh, this is so against the normal order of things. This is just like a very twisted way of doing things. It feels very much like castration in many ways. If you think about the normal rom-com plot, right? Super high power, successful woman, can't find a man, like very disagreeable, beautiful, but just like disagreeable. And then meets this really attractive, really wealthy, really amazing guy that has his whole life going for him, right? He's got the dog, he's got the business, he's got it all. He basically stops participating in his life and then moves over to her life and becomes the puppy dog of her life, right? He leaves his life to go to hers. That's not the normal order of things. It's like, it's self-sabotage for a man, and it's also not what women want. I was just talking about in my last episode, right? A woman wants to play an irreplaceable role in a great adventure. Like, it's about her coming into his world, into his vision, into his containment, right? So it just doesn't make any sense. So it's made women it's made women think differently. And it's made women create these weird standards for men and entitlement, right? The other thing is that Rob was talking about in this article is men endorse these ideas too. Like the male feminists, there's nothing worse than this. Just apologizing for masculinity, like celebrating all of this. And he gave two ideas for why this might be happening and why men aren't stepping up against this. Like in the mainstream, of course, there are men that are stepping up against this, but it's a lot of effort to live up to traditional masculine requirements, right? Testosterone levels have been declining for decades. I have another thought. I'm thinking that lack of rites of passage too. I think men having not experienced like the rally cry and the brotherhood and the what it means to be a man uplifted by other men in this group, they're like, what the hell's the point? What does this even mean? So it's that much easier to like leave his life to go join hers because she's pedestalized. The golden retriever pedestalizes the woman, right? That's not good for anyone. So this proximate explanation for why elite and influential women, talk about all of this, right? Like delay family, body positivity, cut your hair short, friendship matters more. It's like in solidarity with single women, right? It's like some woman was saying like, oh, I don't want to post photos of my relationship because I don't want to like upset women. I don't want to like make them upset. And so then that kind of thinking then perpetuates this idea of relationships don't matter, which is a lie because the most important thing in the world to a woman is a relationship. Nothing matters more deep down. And it's one of these things. So that's the proximate. And then the ultimate is really just to like repress the reproduction, right? As we were just talking about. So the way that the chimps do and like lying to women about what they should prioritize and then disrupting other women's mating preferences. Because if you think about the elite women, what ends up happening? They have it all. They have the best options. They have high-powered networking, right? Like that heiress, that British heiress I was talking about, like she can very easily find herself the type of man that all women want, right? Elite matchmaking services that cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. IVF and IVF and IVF, if needed, right? Can continue to have kids long after many women can't. Egg freezing, hired help, nannies, surrogates, hundreds of thousands of dollars for that. And they can have the beautiful home and the beautiful lifestyle, and they can have all of this, but everybody can't. And it's just it's so heartbreaking because so many people are just stuck in this like TikTokification of life and these highlight reels and are just so removed from what really matters. And so I think it's like, the beautiful women that are just, desubscribing from this lifestyle and going off into rural places and homesteading and homeschooling their kids. And it's just really beautiful. One of my closest friends like met her person when they were 19 and, they were in a religious Orthodox Christian community. And they've maintained that. And it's just so beautiful having seen her, experience everything that I did not just talk about, like the exact opposite of all of this, like it's just so beautiful. And she's definitely the happiest woman I know. So it's so interesting. Speaking of women want relationship more than anything, women want to be loved and cherished and made to feel beautiful. I talked about this in my last episode. I think this is the part that Rob didn't cover, and I think it's an important part of this whole thing. There is an aspect of just the envy of men in general from some elite women that I would argue are quite psychopathic, specifically the anti-natalist, the pushing of the anti-natalist beliefs, right? So even Rob himself was talking about how anti-natalist beliefs correlate with dark-triad traits, psychopathy, Machiavellianism, narcissism. These are associated with manipulation, lack of empathy, self-interest. And the idea is that people that are over-indexed on dark triad traits, they tend to be less introspective than your average, right? So that means they wouldn't do the inner work required to actually heal a pain or a wound and would just kind of charge forward, destroying everything in their path, usually the most trusting, empathetic, and sincere people. And so I'm saying all of this to say that it's important to remember that 2%-ish of the population over-index in dark triad traits, and that's 1% female and 1% male, right? Women are just as capable of psychopathic insanity. And like all humans, men and women are capable of evil and good. And I think one of the things that I think frustrates the OG red pill folks like Paul Elam, who I'm excited to speak to in a couple weeks, Janice Fiamengo, is that there's like this narrative that, women are these feeling people and therefore they're just always good, and victims, and men are these like logical doing people, therefore they kind of commit all the evil and they aren't victims, they're perpetrators. And that imbalance in the media, I think, is very frustrating, and I can see that frustration. I really dislike when it goes to like woman hating, because again, this is a 1%, a tiny elite, minority. And I would say that a lot of the women are not, a lot of women just in general, like in the mainstream, are mostly just caught up in the tornado of this, and are not like trying to be manipulative and entitled. And I think there's just these narratives, not to excuse them. Again, like, I don't want to excuse anyone, and that's the whole point I'm trying to make here. And there's an opportunity here to just have a balanced conversation and just like treat everyone without sugarcoating what's happening. And what I'm saying is that as I read more and as I find out another situation or like a thing that has happened, I'm like, wow, these hyper elite kind of psychopathic women have done a number on society. They have infiltrated and manipulated in such a way that is so harmful for most men and women. And it sucks. And I think Janice Fiamengo was writing about this. Like, she has an article in her Substack around just penis envy in general. And I feel that there's been a bit of a trickle down from some of this like psychopathic behavior. So I wanted to just note two women, okay? Elizabeth Cady Stanton, I talked about her in another episode. She was like one of the first women's rights leaders. She was the one who was there at the Seneca Falls Convention. She wrote this book, Declaration of Sentiments, where she just like talked about how terrible men were. And the reality of it was that her father really loved her little brother, and her little brother died, and her father preferred his son and really didn't treat her very well. And she was heartbroken and hurt. And I believe that she did not heal. And again, so we're not going to like excuse her for her insane behavior, but she just projected all of her pain and all of her wounding onto men in general, as many women do. And it's not okay, and it's not excusable. It's just what happened. And so I think that's important to note, that I imagine if she was a little more introspective and empathetic, things wouldn't have gone down that way. There's also another woman named Victoria Woodhull, who was born in 1838, and she actually was she was part of this like women's movement. She was one of the first women to like be a part of like the occult, and she talked about free love, and she was actually the first woman ever on the ballot to run for president, running next to Frederick Douglass. And it's so interesting because the narrative is like, women have been oppressed and women aren't allowed to do anything. Meanwhile, Elizabeth Cady Stanton studied law. She went to one of the earliest universities open to women. Victoria Woodhull was on the ballot to run for president in the 1860s, 1870s. The thing about her is that it says that she was this like, she was kind of like this guru grifter, that her first fortune being made on the road as a magnetic healer. And she joined the spiritualist movement, right? So it's just interesting. I feel like there's a little psychopathy there. She's one of 10 children. Her mother, apparently her father sexually abused her. Her mother was from like an unmarried family. There was a lot of just pain. You could imagine she was cheated on by two of her husbands. She ended up marrying for a third time. She started talking about free love after being cheated on. So you can understand, right? Like what happens when people are in pain. and they are tending towards psychopathy, and they don't heal any of that, right? There's no introspection. It's just like a projection on the world. Someone that made a whole bunch of money by being a magnetic healer in the 1850s is someone that was quite charismatic and charming, right? And could manipulate her way. And I anticipate that a lot of this psychopathic manipulation that came from the 1800s trickled its way down. And there was this idea that, well, men have everything. Elizabeth Cady Stanton, my father didn't love me as much as he loved my brother. Men have it better. Men cheated on me. Men have it better. Men got to get away with all of this shit. Men have it better. And so there's just this twisting and perversion of that pain that then became this man envy. And if you think about Betty Friedan and what she was writing about in the problem that has no name, is like, she was basically saying the solution is, women, you need to go out there and get what the men have. You need to take what the men have, because what the men have is better than what you have. And it's this fundamental psychopathic envy that is, a part of it. So I think that it's all of that. So the envy, the repression, and all of that. So all in all, I think it's important to think about the role that hyper-influential elite women that have a lot of access and a lot of resources have in the culture and the influence that they have had over the last many decades. So I think it's really, really important to think about. Curious what you guys think, and if you have any other questions and thoughts. Until the next one, y'all. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and thanks so much for being here and for your support in this mission that I have to bring men and women closer together with the information that we all need to find more harmony with each other. If you found value, please help me grow the pod, and you can do one of two things. You can either share this episode with a friend, which I would love, or you can write me a review on Apple or Spotify, or you can do both. And finally, if you are looking for transformational coaching, you can book a one-on-one call with me, and it will be my pleasure to support you in this next season of your life. Till the next one, you guys.